God bless you all, and God bless America.
And here he comes, the President of the United States, together with Laura Bush and their daughters.
Nation on earth. Thank you, America. God bless you. God bless these United States.
Since 1788, the United States has had democratic elections where the people elect the president. However, many Americans are unaware that they do not directly elect the president. The Electoral College does. The Electoral College was created in a time when about 4 million people were spread up and down the 1,000 miles of the Atlantic seaboard, which were barely connected with transportation and communication, and made national campaigns nearly impossible. Today, however, the United States has approximately 314 million people in a developed country with easy access to transportation and mass communication. The United States has also held 56 elections since the creation, which has shown people today the complications and undemocratic ways of the Electoral College. The Electoral College has created a presidential system that dismisses proportional voting, puts major emphasis on swing states, allows a president to be elected with less than 50% of the popular vote, and deters voters because their votes are useless. It has created what have come to be known as swing states. These states are no different from any other, just that their citizens' political beliefs are split. However, winning or losing these states can determine a whole election.
There's this argument out there that if you don't have the Electoral College, candidates are not going to take small states seriously. In reality, the Electoral College guarantees that candidates won't take most states seriously. That is, this election, like past elections, is about roughly 5 states. And once again, much of it's about Florida. It's like we're the United State of Florida. All the campaign issues dealing with immigration, those are driven by the fact that only 5 states really matter. So these candidates have no reason to go to lock states for them, or more importantly, to states that are going to go for their opponents.
We talked with Rob Ritchie, head of Fair Vote, to learn more about the effect of the Electoral College and alternatives that exist.
People have assumed that the Electoral College, because it's established in the Constitution, means that states have to keep doing what they're doing with their electors. But in fact, that second part is not true. So we can have states change what they do with their electors under the Constitution.
The Electoral College system allows the possibility of a minority president being elected. If the country was so divided that 3 presidential candidates split the electorate so that no one candidate had enough electoral votes to win, a president with less than 50% of the vote would be elected. It happened in 1824 with John Adams being elected. Another way of electing a minority president is if a third party or candidate, however small, drew enough votes from the top 2 that no one received over 50% of the national popular vote. Far from being unusual, this sort of thing has, in fact, happened 15 times, including Wilson in both 1912 and 1916, Truman in 1948, Kennedy in 1960, and Nixon in 1968. In 1988, the 7 combined voting age populations of the 7 least populous jurisdictions of Alaska, Delaware, the District of Columbia, North Dakota, South Dakota, Vermont, and Wyoming, of approximately 3 million people, carried 21 electoral votes, the same as the 9 million persons of voting age in the state of Florida. Each Floridian's potential vote then carried about 1/3 of the weight of a potential vote in the other states. An alternative to the Electoral College is the National Popular Vote, a system in which every vote is equal, no matter where it's cast. It would essentially ensure that the presidential candidate who receives the most votes nationwide would become president. Instead of relying on the Electoral College, under which most American votes do not even count, the National Popular Vote would guarantee that the presidential election reflects public opinion. Another advantage of the National Popular Vote is it would increase civic participation by giving voters in all states an incentive to vote in elections.
Changes, yes. Over time, you would see more people vote, just because you would start to create incentives all the time in every election for every vote to count. So you would see more investment in what it takes to get people voting everywhere. You would see an immediate impact, I think, that would be a relatively modest one. You would see just more states in play and more voters feeling that their votes matter. But I think the greater impact would be over time.
It would eliminate the false idea of red and blue states and ensure the candidate with the most popular votes is elected. It would bring candidates to more states and ensure that they are attentive to our concerns. It also reduces the possibility of faithless electors, or those electors who do not vote for the candidate to whom they have pledged support. At least 70% of Americans support a moving system of electing the president using the national popular vote. So, Congress, the Electoral College must be modified in order to promote a healthy sense of civic duty for the American citizens and democracy's greatest privilege, voting.